Hello everyone, welcome to the May 29th Call of Duty DFS Slate breakdown. Again, I'm going to keep this video a little bit shorter like I did yesterday. Um, just kind of not feeling well, just pretty tired here already. It is 11:45 and I'm not sure if I'd try to get this video out a little bit earlier. That way I don't have to like rush it tomorrow or whatever. But yeah, we can get started. Quickly recap yesterday. So we had a 4-gamer where we had a couple good things, couple bad things. We can start off with kind of a good one. We had the New York Subliners upset over Optic Texas. Again, this was kind of just a weird price to me. I just thought New York was an equally elite team as Optic is with the substitute. I should add. Optic with the substitute, I just thought they were a little overpriced. I thought New York was like the second best team in the league. I thought Optic was number one. I don't think the gap was that far. And it kind of variance a little bit rolled to our side. Optic or New York ended up getting the win, cashed a nice little underdog ticket there. But then we kind of gave it back a little bit on the Boston side. So pretty bad one here. Boston is looking really, really bad at the moment. I feel like I kind of gave them a few passes here and there, but it's kind of, I think we've seen it a little bit. We've seen enough here to definitely raise the alarms, I think, with Boston. There's been enough problems, I think, with this team. I mean, granted, they did kind of get like stomped in map 1. Octane went really crazy. Then in map 3, like Draza and Envoy went pretty crazy, and they didn't even win a search and destroy round. I mean, none of these maps were even remotely close, though, which is concerning. I mean, Capsidol and Methods were not problematic. Narrow and TJ Halley were really, really bad. So that's kind of what it comes down to. We definitely just kind of got this one wrong. I definitely thought Boston was a lot better than this. I just kind of gave them too many passes, I think. So we'll learn from that one. Toronto over London. We were on the Toronto side. I actually had a kind of a good situation after this match. All I had was I just had an Insight one-off. Obviously, ideally would have been having Insight and Kleenex, but it is what it is. Again, we kind of thought this one would go this way. The control ended up going to the London Royal Ravens, which was a little bit of a surprise, but wasn't the craziest thing. Considering I think Toronto still a little lackluster in that game mode, but Toronto got the series win. They were a decent sized favorite, nothing too crazy. Atlanta FaZe got the kind of reverse sweep a little bit, I guess if you want to say. They lost map 1 here on the Bocage against LAG. People were kind of saying that there's problems here with FaZe. I'm not ready to write them that much off. I probably will have them. I don't know. I'd have to look at the league as a whole, but I definitely don't know if they're quite on the S tier. They might still be that third team behind Optic or between Texas and New York, and then it'd be Atlanta there. I'm not sure, but it's kind of a moot to what we were looking at here. Celium did a really bad map 1. He picked it up throughout the series and they won. Definitely a consistent theme there. They're needing a lot from Celium at the moment. This is kind of problematic. Gunless really didn't provide much for LAG. That definitely would have been a difference maker there. I did kind of not love FaZe, and they didn't do that crazy. So from a DFS standpoint, we were actually in a decent spot here. Really, all it came down to for the whole day was we kind of got a lot of these series right. We actually were 3 for 3. 3 for 4. I was just kind of heavily invested in a way towards Boston, and they got blown out. So that kind of put a stop to my day with Methods, and I think I had Methods and Capsidol both in my lineups. And you just cannot have a 0-3 score. If you get swept, your score is just going to be way too little to even compete when the margins are so thin in Call of Duty DFS. So that's what happened to me. I actually had a pretty good read on the whole day. I think overall 3 for 4 in terms of teams that we were leaning and stuff like that. So pretty decent day, I think, overall. So we can look to build upon that. Have the final games of the Major 3 season to talk about here. I need to stop closing breaking point. But this will be a pretty interesting one. I think right off the bat, I can already identify kind of what I'm thinking when I look at the team names here. So I'm not going to waste too much time going in depth or anything. I'm going to do a little bit of a game, or I don't want to say a game, but a little bit of an exercise that I typically like to do. in League of Legends mainly, and sometimes CS:GO. But I'm going to try to apply it to Call of Duty here, and I have yet to see the Vegas odds for these games. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to guess what kind of the odds will be, look at kind of how I would price the game, and then compare those to how the Vegas odds actually are. It's a lot easier to make your decisions that way, because if, for example, hypothetically, I think Seattle's like a minus 250 favorite over London, and then it turns out that London's like a minus 125 favorite or something, and Seattle's like a slight underdog, or if I think Seattle's like a minus 500 and they're only minus 120 or something, that means I'm going to like Seattle a lot more than the Vegas books are, and I know that I could go pretty heavy on Seattle because I'm probably going to be relatively different than most of the field, for example. So that's a little exercise I like to do, and to kind of look at that. So right off the bat, I think London, Seattle, not hypothetically, for real, I think Seattle probably decent sized favorite here. London has been pretty lackluster. Seattle's, they're kind of up and down. I wouldn't be shocked to see Seattle kind of blow this one either, but I think they've been performing a little bit too well lately, and I don't see much from the London side. I'm going to go with Seattle, probably minus 220, minus 225, something like that. Makes a good bit of sense to me. I like Seattle a decent bit here. Boston, Florida, this one might be, I think this one's pretty close. In terms of what the odds will be, I think Boston will be a slight favorite, but I like Florida. I'd personally line this like probably as a pick'em. I'd probably have it 50-50. But my slight instant lean is to go with Florida. There's just been too many problems with Seattle, with Boston lately. And I know Florida hasn't had the best performance lately. So quickly for maps, London, Seattle, we know, I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves. So quickly heading back to London, Seattle, we know how much the maps matter when it comes to DFS. So I shouldn't be skipping over that. That's definitely my bad. But we know London's going to ban Bocage. That's their permaban. Seattle usually ban the Gavutu. So we're going to have like a relatively average map set. I think Berlin and Tuscan are the third and second best maps, respectively. So I'm not too scared to go with Seattle boys. I think they can fry on the Tuscan hardpoint. I think they can do decent on the Berlin as well. I'm not that scared of London's Berlin or Tuscan hardpoint, that's for sure. I just think Seattle's pretty decent in these respawn game modes. I'm not that scared of anyone on London, really. We'll have to look at pricing and stuff a little bit later. We'll do that later, but I like Seattle. I like their ability. I like the maps aren't bad. I wish obviously we had a Bocage, but Tuscan and Berlin are like okay. I think Gavutu is significantly worse than the others. I think Tuscan is decent. I think Berlin's like you would like something better, but it's not the worst. There's been some upside games on the Berlin. I think that's an average map set to go with the Berlin and the Tuscan hardpoint. Nothing too crazy, I think, to write home about there. But then we can move on to Boston, Florida. We started talking about this a little bit. I just am pretty down on Boston. I don't know, maybe it's just too much of an overreaction maybe to their performance yesterday. But they've been bad. Like I don't know how else to put it, but they've just looked bad. They've just been bad. I think the big difference maker here is Florida's been pretty strong in the respawn game modes, and that's what we want for DFS purposes. We look at the hard point. Florida is 9-5. Boston is 5-8. In the control, Boston is 3-5. Florida is 4-4. So pretty close. Florida's only really good on the Gavutu control. I think it's unlikely we'll get there, because I believe picks and bans are still done through coin flip. Maybe I'm not sure. I actually don't know how the controls are picked now. That's definitely information I should be having, so I apologize for that. I actually don't know how the control is picked. I'd imagine both teams ban one. But I'd imagine Boston would ban the Gavutu, and then I don't know what Florida would prefer, the Berlin or the Tuscan. Probably the Berlin, although I'm not sure. Yeah, probably the Berlin. So I'd imagine Boston banned Gavutu control, Florida banned Berlin control, Florida banned Tuscan control. We go to the Berlin control. So map control looking pretty decent, I think, for Florida here. I just think they're like a slightly better team, especially in the respawns. I like their ability in the DFS realm much more than probably their like money line, for example. But I think Florida should. I think this is probably like a pick'em, but I like Florida's DFS upside much better. And I just feel a little bit more confident with them at the moment. Their respawn game mode's looking much better. their players looking much better. I just feel like Boston's been shaky. I don't know why I just closed it, but I wanted to compare their like little match history so far. Um, I will add a caveat here with Boston is lately they've lost to really good teams. They lost to New York, Atlanta, and LA. Granted, they got blown out by like a couple of these. I don't think the Atlanta series was particularly close either. Um, I mean, they've looked bad, and you could argue, yeah, they've lost to pretty decent teams. Like they don't have a Paris loss or anything like that. They don't have bad losses here. You just have to kind of draw the line somewhere. I mean, Florida's losses are definitely worse. They've lost to Seattle, Minnesota, Optic. They've only beaten LA. Boston's only beaten London. So I do think these teams are both a little bit waning. But again, I don't want to reiterate myself too much here. But I like Florida's respawn prowess a little bit more. I like their individual skilled players a little bit more. Awakening and Skies, pairing them up with maybe even with Vivid or Dave Patty. We'll look at the maps, but in terms of what we might get in terms of a hardpoint map set, I'm not too sure. Boston have yet to ban the Berlin hardpoint. Look here, we can't look at the. Yeah, I was gonna say I was gonna try to look at just the major three, but we cannot do that. Florida is decent on the Gavutu and Tuscan, but they still want to get to the Bocage. Boston is not that great on anything except for the Gavutu, really. But Boston or Florida feels probably decent on the Gavutu either way. So I'm not sure. I really don't know what to expect in terms of what we'd get banned here. I personally think it would make sense for Florida to just ban the Gavutu since that's the only thing I think Boston's looks scared on. I think Boston maybe go to the Bocage ban. I'm not sure. I mean, Florida's their most banned map is either Berlin and Tuscan, and I don't think either of those are that scary for Boston. So maybe Florida just ban like the Berlin, just throw that thing out, and I think Florida's probably fine on the rest of them. I'm a little worried that we won't get a Bocage here. I do think both of these teams are fine going to that map. I just feel like Boston or Florida's 0-2 on it. That's their worst one, statistically recently. There's worries there. Boston, Bocage, and Gavutu were their two most banned, and Gavutu's been one of their only decent hardpoint maps, so it's probably not going to be that one. So Boston might ban Bocage, Florida might ban Bocage. It's tough. I don't want to put strong predictions out either way here, just because I feel like it really could go either way in terms of what maps we'd get banned. But I'm leaning Florida either way. Not going too crazy on it because there's no Bocage, but I don't expect there to be that. This is the series most likely to have Bocage because when we look at the slate as a whole, London ban Bocage, LA Thieves ban Bocage. So it's possible in Boston, Florida. I wouldn't bank on it, but if it was going to happen in a series, I think it would be this one. I'm just not going too crazy on it, thinking this is going to be a Bocage. It's just a possibility, and that we're going to hope for. So, LA Thieves, Texas. This one is really perplexing to me, if I'm honest. So we just saw a stellar performance from LA Thieves. They blew Boston like completely out of the water. Was not even remotely close on any of the maps. Optic lost to New York, but again, that's not a big deal. New York is looking, extremely strong. I'm really not sure what to make of this one, honestly. Again, I'm probably just going to have to lean towards the Optic side, but I'm not feeling much either side in this one. I'd be interested to see what the price is on this. I'd imagine Optic will be the favorite, just by how much. I'm still not a believer in LA. Like, all of their series have been 3-0s. It's just which way does it go? They've 3-0'd London, got 3-0'd by Minnesota and Seattle, and then 3-0'd Boston. I just don't know. Like, they're just so hit or miss. It seems so random what they're going to do. And I feel like Optic's consistency, although they lost to New York here, I'm not too worried about that. They've still beat a lot of other decent teams. They beat FaZe. The caveat here with Optic is I think they're still a little bit overrated. I just feel like because they beat FaZe, people are going to be on them. But I feel like FaZe has been kind of slumping a little bit too. LAG and Florida aren't particularly impressive. So I feel like these teams could actually be like relatively similar skilled. If we look at the league as a whole a little bit here, and we say if maybe New York is the number one team because they did beat Optic, who I thought was the former number one. They beat FaZe, so they beat Florida, they beat LAG. I think they're probably in that like I don't know 2, 3, 4 spot or something. LA Thieves, they've lost to Seattle and Minnesota, but I think these teams are similar. I think these teams are relatively close. So this is going to be a price thing for me. I'm going to see what it's going to be. I'd probably have Optic minus like 180. That sounds right to me. That's might be a little crazy. We'll look and see. But I feel like Optic's slight favorite here. I don't think it's going to be that big of a difference between these two teams, so we'll look and see. So Seattle slight favorite, Florida slight favorite, Optic pretty big favorite. This is kind of makes sense. What we guessed. I did have Florida's slight favorite, Seattle somewhat decently favorite. I like them a little bit more than minus 170. I agree with this Florida price tag. Optic minus 325. That's an intriguing one, for sure. I'll leave it at. That's a close one. That's a close one. That's a weird one. I don't know how much I want to buy into LA Thieves just because they did so good yesterday and they are so hit or miss. But we did see them win at the Pro-Am Classic here. Like it seems a little odd that this price tag is like this because I feel like Optic has not been that crazy. Like they're still a really strong team, probably the second best team in the league behind New York. But I don't think they're that dominant. I don't think the gap is that much between a lot of these teams and stuff. I feel like LA Thieves have been kind of hitting their stride, although they did have 2 0-3s right there packed in the middle. So I just think this is closer than minus 325. That's all it comes down to for me. I do think Optic's a better team. I do think they win a little bit more often. However, I just think this is a little bit closer. So if I'm going to get an underdog here to mix and match with my Florida and my Seattle, I think it's going to be the LA Thieves. And the caveat here, I guess I'll add, is I think LA Thieves have been stronger performing in this statistics for the respawns. They're 9-5 and 6-4 versus 8-7 and 6-3. So it's pretty close. It could go either way. I just feel like LA Thieves respawns are could be a little bit stronger, and I just like their players. They're super cheap. I think there is a scenario where Optic win this series like 3-1. However, LA Thieves win a decent respawn. They play close in the other respawns. And their players do well. That's what it comes down to here. Again, we're playing DFS. We're not necessarily playing money lines. I think LA Thieves can win, get a fourth map, have some decent individual scores, and go from there. So that'll be what I'm looking at for the LA Thieves. So yeah, that'll be what I'm looking at. Pricing, Kenny, or we don't want to play Kenny. Octane and Draza are significantly underpriced. Octane at 7 and Draza at 6.2, definitely pretty viable. We'll look at the stats for the players that I'm looking at. Boston, Florida, Skies and Awakening are pretty expensive. I don't know if I'd want to get to Vivid at 7.2, but we'll look at the stats. We'll check the stats out here. Dave Petty at 7.8. I think there's definitely a case that you could get to a third one of these Florida boys. I don't know, but it's definitely Skies and Awakening and then everyone else. Sib and Pred at 9, 10, Mac at 8.2, accuracy at 6.8. He's definitely underpriced. We'll look at the how everyone's been performing lately. I'm just going to leave it on Major 3 because I do think that is 4 series a piece for everyone. So we'll look at that. I'm going to go with, again, Seattle, Florida. And then I'm going to throw LA Thieves in here. So that'll be what I'm looking at. So it is Sib, Pred, Octane, Awakening, Draza, Accuracy, Dave Patty, Envoy, Skies. That's pretty disappointing numbers from Skies. I wonder what the How's how so that Skies has been playing that bad? We'll look at Florida. So they got 3-1, they got 3-1, they got 3-0'd, and then they beat LAG here. So in this 3-1 defeat, it was Awakening and Dave not getting any help. In this 3-1 defeat, it was Awakening and kind of Skies and Dave. In this 3-0 defeat, it was Awakening and Dave. And then this 3-1 victory, it was Skies and Awakening. So, I don't know. It's definitely Awakening. He's definitely an ideal player. It feels like maybe a little bit more consistently coming from Dave. However, the caveat there, I think, is when they won, Skies played well. And maybe people don't want to pay that price tag for Skies. I'm not sure. But either way, that's how I'm probably going to be constructing. I like the Florida guys. I like Skies and Awakening still, regardless of those numbers not looking that great there for Skies. I'm kind of willing to throw those out a little bit because we do look at the team stats for Florida, and the only series they won is, Skies did decently. So that's the kind of thing I'm willing to throw out a little bit there is, they lost to Seattle, Minnesota, Optic. I don't think those are that bad. Definitely winnable. I still like Skies. Maybe he's a little bit left out because of that price tag. I'm not sure. In terms of where else to go after that, I'm honestly not sure. Like, you definitely want Awakening. I think that's kind of arguable between what you want to do with Skies, Dave Patty, and Vivid. Vivid's numbers have been bad. I don't think it's crazy to get down to Vivid at 7-2 because there is Bocage upside. There is a chance we see Bocage. It just feels like the chances he comes through are pretty low. I'd probably just go Awakening and Skies, maybe Awakening Dave. But I'd probably leave it there. I don't think I want to mess with Vivid here. Although I do think Boston subs are definitely beatable. I'm not that scared of. Capsul's been decent. Narrow, I'm not that scared of. Methods has been slowing down a little. I'm not that scared of the Boston lineup, so I'd be fine to go with anyone. It'd definitely be Awakening 1, and then it's kind of pick 2 of 3 between Dave and Vivid and Skies, but I would rank them Skies 1, probably Dave 2, then Vivid 3. Vivid, I think, is viable. I probably wouldn't X him out for sure, but he's probably the 4th option in terms of what I'd like to go to on Florida. Seattle, it feels pretty condensed here with them lately. It's definitely been Sib and Pred, but accuracy's been stepping it up. His accuracy at 6'8" definitely feels underpriced. I'd expect him to be pretty popular. Definitely decent third man in, but I definitely think you can mix them up. You could definitely pick up one of Sib and accuracy or Pred and accuracy. I think you definitely could go Sib Pred accuracy. I definitely think that's a possibility here. There's no map or match where we really think there's going to be a Bocage and we want to get overloaded on. So if you think that Seattle's just going to stomp them out, which I think is a possibility, I wouldn't mind 3-stacking them up with Sib Pred and accuracy. Their numbers are pretty crazy. Their upside's insane. I do think they have upside on the maps. The maps are okay. I think Berlin and Tuscan can do enough there compared to everywhere else where I think there's Gavutu ability. So in terms of map set I'm expecting, I think London and Seattle is probably the number 1 option. I think Seattle has a pretty good ability there, but it definitely would be Sib and Pred and then accuracy down there at 68 and then Mac at 82. But I'd honestly kind of X out Mac. He has not been playing well lately. I think he's been sick, so that's probably not somewhere I'd go. And then we kind of already broke it down with LA Thieves. It's been Octane. It's been a little bit Draza. Octane specifically has been absolutely crazy. It was really, really crazy yesterday. Octane at 7, Draza at 62. I probably wouldn't go much further beyond that, but if you wanted to get a little bit crazy and have an LA Thieves 3-stack, which I don't think is, again, crazy here, because I do think, if you believe LA Thieves are going to win, like, why would you make a 2-stack and maybe not make a 3? Like, it could come through. I've been kind of leaning away from the 3-stacks lately. I do think they are possible, or they're still decent and viable in this format, in these three matches, in these three gamers, I should say. Um, I just don't know. I just feel like the odds a third player comes through as opposed to one of the other ones from the other ones is pretty low. So I'd probably limit it to Octane and Draza, but Envoy would definitely be my third man in. I definitely would not be playing any Kenny. His numbers and skill have been pretty atrocious lately. So I'm going to leave it to Octane and Draza. I think they can do enough for me at that price tag in a 4-game series, 4 or 5-game series, and that'll be it for me. So yeah, I mean, we've actually we've actually had a a little bit of a run here. I think last week we had 2 perfect days. This week we didn't do anything the first day. Yesterday we had a 3 or 4. So I feel like we actually have a kind of a decent read on what's going on in the league. So hopefully we can translate it and picking in and parlaying them up into the correct pieces and the correct builds and stuff. So yeah, that'll be it for me today. Hopefully you guys got something out of the video. And or I guess quickly I'm gonna look at the team slots because they've been messing around with these. Nope, these are actually pretty normal. They actually did something right. Yesterday I didn't look at the team slots because I never do. But they messed up the team slot pricing, and they have been lately, but I guess they kind of fixed it today. So nothing to comment on here. It's just kind of whatever team you can fit in with your slot, with your stacks or whatever. I don't think there's a great one. I think if I was going to pick one of the team slots, Seattle would probably be the one I'd go to. Although, if you want to get down to LA Thieves at 26, that could definitely help out your build. If you're going with LA Thieves players, you probably want LA Thieves to do well anyway. Although I think getting up to the Seattle team slot would probably be worth it. I think they're pretty strong in the search and destroys. I don't love Florida's chances against Boston in the searches. I don't love LA Thieves' chances in the search and destroys against Optic Texas. So I think Seattle would probably be the team slot I'd be going with. Seattle or LA, depending on if I could get the spend up or if I want to save down at the LA Thieves boys. So yeah, that'll be it for me today. I will see you guys again probably next week for Call of Duty. Maybe there's going to be some CSGO stuff in between then, but League of Legends is on the MSI break. CSGO just had their major, so a lot of those teams are probably going to be on break as well. I'll be seeing you guys probably next week for more Call of Duty. I believe they're going to be back on LAN, so that'll be pretty intriguing. And I'll see you guys then.